So, Jenny, how'd you like to do something new today?
Uh-oh, not like the time
No.
Or...
No, new. Like a trip to the National Zoo, to take a look at the zoo behind the zoo, to see how the zoo works.
Great. When do we start?
Now.
So what is the zoo behind the zoo?
A lot. The zoo's not just a place to see animals. It's actually a center for scientific study.
Did anyone tell these people it's a center for scientific study? They don't look like they came here to a center for scientific study. And this sure doesn't look like a center for scientific study. It looks like a family outing, or a pretty big family.
Not just one. Hundreds of families. Thousands of families.
Hundreds of thousands. Thousands of thousands.
Googobs of people. You're seeing everyone who's been to the National Zoo since it was founded.
Everyone?
Well, some of the people who took pictures. You can see that's still a lot of people.
Did you dress like that when you were little?
Not if I could help it. And that was taken in 1900. I'm old, but I'm not that old.
We're in 1900?
Not anymore. Now we're all the way back in 1889 when they opened the National Zoo.
Those are bison. What are they doing here? And that's the Smithsonian. What are we doing here?
You're looking at the National Zoo's first home, right on the mall near the Capitol. And you're looking at the first zoo animals. You could say they started the zoo.
Bison? All I know about bison is that they used to roam around America. Millions of them, in big herds. Then because so many people were killing them for food and for sport, they were becoming extinct, like the dinosaurs.
Actually, Jenny, I'd say you knew a lot about bison. Did you also know that the Smithsonian Institution brought these bison here, as a matter of fact, right here in the middle of downtown Washington, D.C., to study them, to photograph them for later generations to see? They tried to save them, too. One thing led to another, and before they knew it, they had a whole collection of animals and nowhere to properly collect them. So, in 1889, they brought them here to Rock Creek Valley, right, Dr. Robinson?
Yes, and when the zoo moved from in the middle of D.C. to its present location at Rock Creek, they marched all the animals through the streets of Washington up to Rock Creek, and at that stage, it was all countryside out here, nothing but fields and trees. The National Zoo was founded by an act of Congress, and the act said that it should be founded for the advancement of science and the instruction and recreation of the people. And that's rather neat. You know, 100 years ago, they were wise enough to realize that zoos were important for the advancement of science. There weren't very many zoos in the world that were founded in that period for that purpose.
So that's how the bison started the National Zoo.
And why? Because the National Zoological Park is not just a place to see the animals. Many of them are here to be studied for specific reasons.
Because this zoo is a
Center for Scientific Study.
Right. Do you think there are more people or animals at the zoo?
Animals, since people are animals too.
Oh, so you could say that the animals started the zoo.
You could. I don't think that I would.
I always thought people came here just for fun. Now I find out they come here to learn, too.
They come here for lots of reasons.
Some people go to zoos because they're budding biologists and they're really interested in the behavior of animals and their biology. And other people, I think, go to zoos because they like to feel somehow dominant to animals, and seeing the animal in an enclosure below them makes them have some sense of dominating it. A lot of people just have no idea what it's all about, and they come to zoos because it's the popular thing to do. And those are the kind of people we hope we're going to educate when they get here and teach something about why animals are important in nature and why they should be preserved and protected. I think the real function of zoos is threefold: to educate people about the wonder and glory and beauty of life on Earth, and to try and correct wrong attitudes they may have about animals, and also convince people that we should try to preserve the places where animals live so that these beautiful species can persist for future generations.
Oh, look, a little monkey with a mane. Let's stop.
It's a golden lion tamarin monkey from Brazil.
Brazil? In South America, right?
Right. Brazil.
Max, please.
Golden lion tamarins are squirrel-sized primates found only in the Atlantic coastal forest of Brazil. They're part of a family that contains marmosets, tamarins, and lion tamarins.
There's no cage.
They don't need one. If the monkeys run away, they'd be running away from home. See that box? That's their nest. It says Omaha. That's where they used to live, in Nebraska, in the zoo there.
We have a group of golden lion tamarins that is actually ranging freely here on the grounds of the National Zoo. They have radio collars on them, and we follow them. We feed them, of course, and we provide shelter for them. But other than that, they go wherever they want to. They consider themselves a wild group. The research that we did in Brazil suggested that if we put food out and provided them with shelter, that they would stay in one place, and that's the same thing that's happened here at the National Zoo.
Even if the monkeys wanted to leave, it looks like they're being watched all the time.
Just for study. The zoo doesn't have to watch the monkeys to know where they are. Look a little closer.
It looks like it's wearing a portable stereo.
Close. It's a radio collar with a transmitter.
So if a monkey runs away, the collar sends out a signal so the zoo can find it.
More than that, they can study where, when, and how each group of monkeys move within their territory.
I bet Mom would love to put one of those on me. The music. Is it time to go?
There's more to see.
Wait, let me this time.
Be my guest. Where next?
The lions. Why do some lions have manes and others don't?
Males have manes, females don't.
Why? Most of the women I know have bigger hair than men.
In the wild, the manes make the male look bigger.
Tougher, more ferocious. Grrr.
You've got it.
It's easy to find out where animals are from. You know, what countries. What I want to know is how they got here. Like this lion. She didn't just buy a bus ticket, you know. How did any of these animals get here?
Well, sometimes they came as gifts, like Dunk, Goldust, and Babe, elephants presented to the zoo by the Ringling Brothers and Adam Fawpaw circuses. Dunk and Goldust were the first animals to arrive in 1889, when the Smithsonian marched their animal collection to the Rock Creek Valley.
I guess in those days, most people only saw exotic animals when the circus came to town.
The new zoo made it possible to see them all the time.
Oh, look at that one. By the way, did you know that some animals are collected and brought back?
Yeah?
Uh-huh. By expeditions.
Ah, yes, Jenny, that's right. The Smithsonian sent out expeditions for years to Africa, the Far East, all over the world. How did you know that?
I've seen it a million times. How do you think they found King Kong in the original movie? Or Mighty Joe Young?
An expedition. How could I forget?
Are these animals the world travelers their ancestors were?
Most of them have never even seen the countries they're from, like these Barbary macaques. They were born in America, so they've never soaked up the sun on the Barbary coast of Africa. But they're thriving quite well here in the States.
Most of the animals we get are born here. And the second most come from other zoos, where they're born at the other zoos. Very few come in from the wild anymore. There's a very good network in this country for knowing what zoos have what animals. And that system is called ISIS, which is an acronym. And it's the International Species Inventory System. If you have a management problem and you want to know who's got the same species, you can go to the ISIS report of who's got that species, and it will give you names to contact. And also in the same report, you can see who's breeding animals of that species. It also means that if you have surplus, you can go there and see who has that species and might be interested in taking your surplus. And if you need to acquire animals, the same thing. We can also analyze the populations to see whether they're growing and what the age structure of the population is and the sex ratio and all the sorts of things that we need to do if we want to manage the population a little bit better.
That's Archie.
And his mate Jenny. Looks a little like another Jenny I know.
Oh, Max, she does not. Though I'm sure for an ape she's a great beauty.
And this is their son Atcha. Now, Atcha's first mate was Pansy. Their first baby didn't survive.
Aww.
But here's their second, Azy, still alive and well at the National Zoo.
And their third?
Inda. Then Pansy had Tucker and Iris.
Oh, look at that face. Any more?
Atcha had a second family. His mate was Bonnie. She had Kiko.
So starting with 2 orangutans, the zoo ended up with a whole family, complete with grandchildren.
Some are here at the National Zoo. Others were sent to other zoos when they were old enough, in Pennsylvania, Seattle, all over the country. The same with the gorillas and a lot of other animals at the zoo.
Are they as tough as they look?
Actually, they're quite good-natured. They love to play. But they're strong, real strong. So strong they could hurt you without realizing it.
Like my brother, he plays rough. I can watch animals for hours.
Why?
I don't know. Some of them are just funny. Look at him. Some animals are so beautiful and graceful, almost like dancers. Sometimes the way the animals move, the way they act, reminds me of people I know. Like the elephant. Sure is big, though. Wonder how much it weighs.
Oh, about 8,000 or 9,000 pounds.
Really? That's a lot.
Yep. It's about as much as, 160 of you.
Wow. But you know, there's something kind of majestic about them. Oh, I love the elephants.
Majestic? You and your elephants. Remember the Baba the Elephant books? You loved those stories. Do you love stories about animals because you love animals?
I guess so. But those stories aren't really about animals. They're about animals that act like people. That's it. Doesn't Babar remind you of Uncle Harry? You know, his suit, his round belly, his nose?
But Uncle Harry's not an elephant.
Yeah, and elephants aren't people. A lot of the animals you see on TV act like people. You know, I think the stories are really a way for us to learn about ourselves.
Without being embarrassed by what the stories say about us. It's kind of easy to forget that these are just stories. We begin to think real animals are just like the ones in the books and on TV.
A lot of people tend to anthropomorphize about animals. It's a very regrettable thing because they'll look at a little tiny animal and they'll say, it's not got enough space because that enclosure is about the size of my living room or my bedroom or something like that. People assume things. They talk about the panda being bored and unhappy, and they judge that because it's lying on its back. And if a panda or any other big mammal lies on its back, it means just the opposite of being bored and unhappy. It means it's totally content, you know. It's relaxed. And in the wild, animals seldom lie on their backs. They never get the opportunity to be free from fear and hunger and relax in that way. So they apply human behavior to judging animals, and often with results that are, you know, 180 degrees out of phase, totally wrong.
We love animals so much we start to think they're just like us. That's what he's saying, isn't it? But if animals don't think like us, how does the zoo find out what they're really like? Where they like to live, what they like to eat? Wait, I know, by studying them. But if we really care so much, why keep them locked up? Even if we figured out how much space they need, no matter how big the zoo is.
Sometimes it's safer for them here than in the wild.
Yeah, Dr. Robinson did say that animals feel safer here and they don't have to worry about food shortages or being attacked.
They have as much room as they'd use in the wild. Regular meals, health care. I may move in here myself. But you know, people have always collected animals, even before there were zoos. They called them menageries.
Menageries?
Yeah, menageries. Like this one in France in the 17th century. Yeah, and of course, some people just kept them as pets. Sometimes exotic ones.
That's a pet?
It was for Josephine Baker, and that's nothing. The late William Randolph Hearst had a private zoo at his estate in San Simeon, California. Some of the animals are still there today. Yes, it's true. There have been zoos throughout history.
Thank you, Max. You know, I don't really need a zoo of my own, because I've got this one. What's the difference between seals and sea lions?
Well, for one thing, they look different. See how the sea lion has little ears? The seal's head is smooth. They only have holes on the sides. Sea lions use their flippers for speed and their tails for steering. On the other hand, seals work just the opposite.
They use their front flippers for steering. The more I know about animals, the more I want to know, and I think we've come to the right place, because the zoo is
a center for scientific study.
The chief difference in this zoo is that it is a bureau of the Smithsonian Institution. Its mission is the origin and dissemination of knowledge. And of course, we do this through a living animal collection. That collection needs to be largely self-sustaining. So we do have a research department which, among other things, tries to give us the information we need so that they reproduce and live a long time. We also have field workers in every continent, literally every continent of the world, studying ecosystems, studying species in their native environments. And this, of course, is a very important piece of the puzzle that needs to be assembled to save wild habitats and to save wild places.
In Malaysia, research on the moon rat.
Australia, the koala.
Nepal, north of India, where they study tigers and rhinoceroses.
All over the continent of Africa, like Kenya, Tanzania, even animals in southern Africa.
And over to Panama, at the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute.
The red howler monkey in Venezuela.
Brazil, the golden lion tamarins.
Even here in the United States, sea otters in California, and a lot more.
But how did they do all that? Some of these countries don't even get along with each other.
Yes, but their zoologists do. You'd be amazed at how much easier it is for the zoologists to get along than countries. They have a common goal.
To find out ways to save the animals?
Yep, and to save where they live.
Conservation is a very important mission of the National Zoo. We do that in part through captive breeding here at the zoo and at Front Royal.
Are we still at the zoo?
Yes and no. We're not at Rock Creek Park.
Where are we then?
We're at the National Zoo Center in Front Royal, Virginia.
Conservation Research Center is a 3,100-acre reserve for the breeding of endangered species. In addition to breeding endangered species, we conduct research on the biology of the animals in captivity, as well as the wildlife that occurs on the center here. And a third part of our program is international training. We're very much dedicated to training third world nationals in the methods and techniques of wildlife conservation and wildlife management.
But if you want to seriously study the demography of a population or demographic parameters of a population, what you need to do is to conduct a long-term study.
In a traditional zoo, you have a pair of this and a pair of that. Here we're able to keep large groups of animals of all of the species that we have. A single animal may not represent its species and how it behaves in captivity, but when you have the opportunity to look at a number of animals, you can then generalize.
So the zoo has more than lots of animals. It has lots of each kind of animal.
Over 750 right here at Front Royal.
What kind of monkeys are these?
That's a Geldes monkey.
They have birds here too?
That's a red-crowned crane. They got these little fellas, matchy tree kangaroos. Cute, aren't they? And tiger qualls.
Where is it?
He's over there.
I don't see it. Oh, there it goes. It's so cute.
Everything from onagers to tarsiers.
What's that? A cardboard condo?
More like a tarsier townhouse. They look shy, but they're nocturnal. They only come out at night. That's a guam rail.
A real guam rail?
A really great guam rail.
Gee. Oh, looks like we're on the road again. Where to?
The students don't just study in the classroom. They study wildlife in the wild, too.
That's wild.
That's what I said.
What are they doing?
Marking the deer's feeding grounds. By coming back and measuring how much has been eaten, zoologists can figure out how many deer there are. You have to know how many animals there are to know if you're losing any.
So you can tell if they're becoming extinct.
Otherwise, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
So what happens here affects animals all over the world.
The world's smaller than you think. Everything that happens anywhere affects animals everywhere.
Including animal us.
Exactly.
Come on, Matt. Max, the zoologists look more like farmers to me.
They are.
So the zoo doesn't buy food for its animals, it grows it here.
Just the hay.
It can't be easy feeding all these hungry mouths.
It isn't always easy to eat either. That's the older sister. She instinctively knows to babysit, so Mama Macaque can eat in peace.
Thank goodness for big sisters. What a cute baby. I'd sit for Mama Macaque anytime. It's like running a restaurant for a lot of picky eaters. I guess nutrition must be a field all its own.
Handled by experts in what, how, when, and where the animals eat. Did you know that the National Zoo had the first zoo nutritionist?
I do now.
A zoo nutritionist is someone who is involved with the study of what animals eat, both in the wild and in captivity, and in trying to develop diets for zoo animals, in particular, exotic animals, so that we can both ensure that they are able to reproduce successfully and are in good health. Well, of course, we can't replicate what animals get in the wild, and we try to offer diversity in zoo diets because we think that's important to animals. Obviously, one nutritionist can't go around and look at every animal as it's being fed every day, so you rely on information from keepers, on information from the curatorial staff who are managing the collections of animals, from information from the veterinary staff as to what problems might arise, and also, very importantly, information from research scientists who are studying animals in the wild and who are working with animals in captive projects. Well, we're very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with a large iguana rearing project in Panama, in which the main objective is to grow iguanas up for release. And the time that it takes for animals to grow and the extent to which they're able to reach adequate size for release is determined in large part by diet.
Panama, how'd we get here?
Shh, listen.
The iguana has been declared an endangered species in almost all the countries in Central America or where iguanas occur. And this is due to the cutting down of forest. The iguanas live in the trees, they feed on the trees. So iguanas cannot survive in deforested areas. Now, the iguana has been a traditional food source, but is no longer available to the farmers because whatever was there has become extinct. And so the project would like to explore the feasibility of restoring iguana populations in order to do a variety of things. Number one is conserve the iguana. Number two is re-establish a traditional food source. And number three, see if we can make iguana management economically, socially feasible enough so that farmers will make benefit from ranching iguanas.
Alexandercito, ¿cómo está? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Iguanitas.
Dr. Werner gives farmers like Don Diego iguanas to raise, free of charge.
Mire, aquí hay iguanitas. Mire, aquí, ¿ve? Iguanitas. Agárrala. Qué lindo, ¿verdad? Iguanitas, hay más.
The Iguana Project wants to provide the farmers with an attractive product, attractive because of traditional reasons and also because they can make money with selling the iguanas in a market. And we also want to see if we can reforest certain areas for iguana management and make that economically attractive.
How come the little iguanas are in cages and big ones aren't?
They keep them in cages for protection until they're big enough to be released. They have feeding stations in the trees, like the golden lion tamarin monkeys, and they stick close to home the same way. The iguana's habitat and food is in the trees of the rainforest, but the forest is being cut down to make room for farms and for firewood.
Not good for the iguana.
Or for the people who raise them for food, and eventually not good for anybody. With the help of the feed developed at the zoo by Dr. Oftedal, Dr. Werner plans to raise lots of iguanas to save some of the remaining forest.
Is it dead? Why isn't it moving?
Reptiles don't move a lot. They usually wait for food to come to them.
So do I, except when I help Mom cook.
She wouldn't mind cooking for you if you were one of these. Reptiles eat only about once a week. They have a slow metabolism, so it takes a long time for things to get through their system. Some reptiles even hibernate for part of the year. Snakes, turtles, some amphibians. Those are the ones who swim.
Are you sure they're alive?
Those are ornate horned frogs. They hibernate during the dry season under 1.5 feet of soil and grow a new skin.
That's a snake, but what's that man doing with it? Have we just left the reptile house? What's happening? Is that snake sick?
I don't know, but the veterinarians will find out. And yes, we're at the zoo hospital.
Do zoo vets make house calls?
They have to. You'd need a pretty big office to have this patient visit you.
Especially if he brought his friends.
Yes.
As a zoo veterinarian, we are responsible for every animal. We don't select species and just work on certain species. So from the smallest house shrew up to the elephant and birds, reptiles, you have to know as much as you can about those animals as far as their management, their diet, parasites, what diseases they can get, the anatomy, and so forth. So, because we never know when an animal is going to be presented to us, and we have to be ready for then when he comes into the hospital to take care of him. Our purpose as a veterinary department is predominantly preventive medicine. You'll find that zoo animals or exotic animals fare much better if you can prevent the problems. You can't just treat sick animals because your success rate goes down. So our goal is preventive medicine with vaccinations and clearing of parasites and good diets and good housing for them so that we can hopefully avoid problems. There is a program at the National Zoo to conserve and preserve the golden lion tamarin and return them to the wild. One of our roles has been maintaining them in captivity, and then a new role for us is to give these groups that are leaving a good physical examination so that when they leave the National Zoo to go to Brazil, we know they're in good health, they're free of parasites and they're free of disease, so that they can withstand the trip and withstand the stress of reintroduction well.
The golden lion tamarin was clearly going extinct starting from the mid and late 60s. And through the end of towards the end of the 60s, there were still animals being exported from Brazil. But it was quite clear that those animals were not breeding and they were not surviving, and habitat for golden lion tamarins in the wild was decreasing more and more, and so the animals were really in very serious shape in Brazil. Over a 10-year period, we managed to solve a lot of the problems, and it was one of the most rapid turnarounds, I think, in the zoo community that has occurred in terms of a species predicted to go extinct in zoos and then coming back. The golden lion tamarin captive research and management program was one of the very first ones designated as a member of the species survival plan of the American Association of Zoological Parks and Aquariums. And the management of golden lion tamarins in captivity and the way it interacts with the management of tamarins in the wild still stands as at the forefront, if you will, of activities in this whole area of captive breeding and conservation, and the way in which the work we do with captive animals interacts with what goes on in the wild in this country and overseas.
Omaha, the monkeys from the park. So the golden lion tamarins are going back home to Brazil.
And we should get back to the zoo.
That's an endangered species from South America. It's a really cute animal. A spectacled bear. It's a baby bear. But you see, it's got those eye markings around its eyes. That's why it's called a spectacled bear, because it's wearing spectacles.
Is it my imagination, or are a lot of animals we've seen endangered?
That's actually why they're here at the zoo, so we can find out ways to save them, like the panda.
What panda? All I see is a guy dragging a tree.
That's bamboo. It's what the pandas eat in the wild.
Oh, there's a panda. He's cute. Where are the wild pandas from?
China. Unfortunately, the wild is getting smaller every day. Wild pandas are restricted to 6 reserves in China.
Reserves are where they can live safely.
Not so safe. Unfortunately, they're hunted by poachers, for one thing, and for another, not many have babies. If pandas could mate with other pandas from other reserves, they'd be stronger and healthier, but the reserves are too far apart. The zoo's pandas have tried to have babies, but so far, no luck. The babies haven't survived.
So even though they're protected at the zoo, they're still endangered?
Sad, but true. We hope the panda will be one of the success stories, but we're running out of time.
You mean then there wouldn't be any more pandas in the world ever? You know, it's really very important to find out why some animals can't have babies, to keep them from becoming extinct.
If these gibbons suddenly couldn't reproduce, there wouldn't be any more gibbons. The same goes for the panda, or any other animal, even us.
You mean if Mom and Dad hadn't reproduced, I wouldn't be here?
Scary, isn't it? I'd miss you.
Me too. So there are people at the zoo who just study reproduction?
Reproductive physiology.
Right, reproductive physiology.
We're just beginning to see the potential of reproductive technology for perhaps enhancing reproductive biology of wildlife species. So, for instance, in using artificial insemination or embryo transfer or in vitro fertilization, we're only just on the edge of even considering those techniques as potential methods for reproducing endangered species.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Artificial what? In vitro who? What's he talking about?
Ways to help animals reproduce when they can't on their own, like the work they're doing with the black-footed ferret.
Oh, so artificial insemination is...
That's when instead of mating, spermatozoa are taken from the male animal and used to fertilize the egg in the female. Sometimes the spermatozoa is frozen and used later.
Embryo transfer?
Is when a fertilized egg is taken from the mother's body and placed in another female to grow and be born. In vitro fertilization is when scientists fertilize the mother's egg in the lab with the male spermatozoa. Then they implant the egg in a female to grow and give birth.
So when you only have a few of one kind of animal, this is the way for the zoos to mate their animals with animals from other zoos without sending them back and forth.
Yep. Otherwise, they'd be inbreeding their animals, which means mating closely related animals like cousins, until you have animals with physical and behavioral problems.
Until eventually you wouldn't be able to have any new or healthy animals at all.
I frequently use the example that, particularly when we talk about the issues of animal welfare and doing research in zoos with zoo animals and high-profile species, that the type of research that we are doing in the area of reproductive physiology is so important. And whereas in many areas of research, investigators use laboratory animals as models for human infertility or human disease. In our particular case, it's a little bit different because what we're doing is we're taking technology that has been developed for humans and we're applying it to endangered species.
White oak? Pin oak? And why are we looking at trees instead of animals anyway?
Because to run a zoo, you have to know more than just animals. You have to know about plants, climate. Geography is real important too.
Everything that has anything to do with animals.
The more the better.
Then what we really need is a super zoo, a zoo that has everything. Plants, animals, fish, everything and anything, all together in one place.
What we really want to do is to abolish the zoo and create a biological park instead of a zoological park. And that means bringing all the world of life together instead of having it all separate in watertight compartments. It's crazy that the animals that live in water are separated from the animals that live on land. You put animals that live in water in an aquarium and animals that live on land in a zoo, and they're all part of the same animal kingdom, the world of life.
Let me show you what he means.
Invertebrates.
Animals without backbones.
Like an octopus or a sea anemone.
Or like arthropods, animals that have their skeletons on the outside.
Like lobsters and crabs or insects.
There are more species of invertebrates on Earth than any other kind of animal.
And more ways to see them here than any other place I've been. Look, an octopus pot.
It's not the biological park come true yet, but the invertebrate exhibit tries to show visitors more than just the animals. It shows you how we represent the animals in art.
And how they look up close.
You can find out facts and fiction.
It's sort of like a zoo and a natural history museum all in one.
Except that the National Zoo isn't a museum of old things from the past. It's a living collection growing and changing every day. It says here that these are South American leafcutter ants.
Wow, that sure doesn't look like my ant farm at home.
Nautiluses. They propel themselves with a kind of pumping action.
Are they kissing?
No. I think they're fighting over who gets the last shrimp.
Oh, we've been through that before. I could cuddle a cuttlefish.
I don't think they'd like that. They get goosebumps when they get nervous.
I'll just look. I won't touch. Great! We even get to play in dirt here.
Maybe we should save that for another day. We gotta go.
So this is the zoo behind the zoo. People working together to study and save the animals all over the world.
It's a group effort, and we're all a part of it.
Yeah, even the people who come to visit the zoo, by getting information, we become a part of the zoo's scientific work. You know, we all need to work together if we're going to save the animals, and ourselves. I mean, if the zoos can share information with zoos and zoologists from all around the world, I mean, if animals are really becoming extinct, and since people are animals too, I mean, you know, why can't everybody get it together?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, just remembering why you're my friend.
Oh, Max.
Come on, Jenny. Time to head for home.
Let's not forget that people are animals. We are not separate from the biological world. Our species is just another species. And I think one of the important functions of a zoo is to remind humans of their zoological heritage. Because if you think of yourself historically and ecologically as part of a whole with the rest of this earth, then you give second thought to destroying parts of that.
Founded in 1846, the Smithsonian Institution is now the world's largest museum and research complex. In Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian operates 13 museums, exploring an incredibly diverse range of knowledge. The wonders of planet Earth and the life it supports. The history of the United States. Magnificent works of art from this country and from around the world. And the story of human flight. Also in Washington is the National Zoo, a center for wildlife research. Elsewhere, the institution operates the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, and the Cooper Hewitt Museum of Design in New York. You can become an associate member of the Smithsonian and receive a wide range of special benefits, including a subscription to Smithsonian Magazine. For information, write to Smithsonian Institution, Washington, D.C., 20560. The Smithsonian Institution, America's National Museum.